Hey guys, so yesterday I got this going, Arduino boy, Game Boy, pile of stuff, and I have to hook it up to that. So the basic idea here is that I have logic doing MIDI out from this audio interface, shooting MIDI cable over to an 8x8 MIDI matrix. And that's controlling all this stuff: Commodore 64, Wrkshp, pocket operators, little bits, modular synthesizer, protosynth MIDI, you know, anything we need, and eventually this monster, but not yet. Okay, so to make it easy to connect the credenza up to the audio inputs in the studio, I use a snake, so 8-channel snake. To make it easy to hook the snake up to all of the gear without having to, you know, redo things every time, I like to add audio outputs from each piece of gear and solder them up manually to the back of this patch panel that I made. So today I am soldering up an 1/8 inch cable, and that will replace this little patch cable on the Game Boy. And the other end of it we'll just solder up directly to the back of that thing, and then I can just take one of the spare lines that are left and boop, plug it in and be good to go. So that's what we're working on at the moment. Alright, so that Game Boy has a stereo output jack, and the left channel is coming from the jack here to the white line. That's going to tip on this jack, and the left channel is coming on the black line, and that's going to tip on this jack. And I needed to tie the grounds of both of these jacks here and here to the shield line going to the Game Boy. That way the Game Boy is picking up the ground of the audio system, and we're separating left and right into separate jacks, which is how we do things in the grown-up world. With recording studio equipment, tend to never combine stereo. We tend to use balanced cables. So, yep. Okay, that's all wired up. Now we can plug the Game Boy into that cable and check it through the snake. Alright, I've got the system powered up here. Last night I worked a little bit on getting the Arduino Boy software all modified to support the MIDI channels that I want to use, which was no small feat. And here I have a stack of tracks for the Game Boy to come in on, and it's mostly going to be just in on this one line. The MGB software uses 5 different MIDI channels to control the Game Boy, so I don't need 5 incoming lines, I only need the one. So these are MIDI output channels to those 5 channels, and it's coming back on just this one track. So I can put my audio effects on that track and individual MIDI effects on the outbound tracks. So let's change this up a bit. Alright, so on the Game Boy we need to install our new cable that we just made. Alright, we got that installed. Now the Game Boy should be hooked up to these 2, and I only need left channel for the test. So let's put that into white on the snake. White snake. Alright, and then we'll grab white here. And this used to be the Game Boy. Take that out of there, patch that in. And that'll be coming in on line 8 of the tone port. So we should be able to hear it now. Okay, we have audio coming through. Alright, it booted into LSDJ, so I'm going to power cycle really fast, and that should make it boot into the other one, MGB. Yep, it's going. Alright, so we're booted into that. Now I should be able to send MIDI through the Arduino Boy into this. Now I've got just Logic's MIDI output going straight into this guy. The goal is to get it so that the MIDI input into this is coming from the MIDI matrix, because the MIDI matrix is taking the single MIDI output from Logic and splitting it out so that it can go out to the Arduino boys MIDI interface, the C64's MIDI interface, the Wrksp's MIDI interface, the MIDI interface that I built to sync up my pocket operators, the MIDI interface for the little bits thing, and the MIDI interface on the modular synthesizer, all simultaneously and controllable, so I can pick which MIDI input goes to which MIDI output, 8x8 matrix switch. Alright, so let's send some MIDI over to the Game Boy real quick. Just use the polyphonic channel here. Seems to be working. Alright, now I get to move the this pile of stuff up to its home, that spot, and hook it up to the matrix switch. Alright, that was a bit of a chore, but we got the Game Boy up in its happy place there with the Arduino boy tucked away back there, and the MIDI input to it is now coming from, oh gosh, it's gotta be like channel 4 on the MIDI matrix's outputs. Logic is now, instead of going to the Arduino boy, it's now going to input 1 on the MIDI matrix. So MIDI comes into this unit here and it is copied out to all the outputs, and you can route which MIDI inputs you want to go to which MIDI outputs. In this circumstance, I've just got MIDI input on channel on the port 1 on this, copied to all 8 of the outputs. So we should be able to control multiple things now. So that's live, wired up, the C64 is turned on. There's 2 SID chips in there, MIDI controlled, and it should have a polyphony mode enabled at the moment. This has polyphony mode enabled, and the modular is ready to go as well. I haven't tuned it up yet. Alright, so I guess we'll start by doing some drum hits on this from MIDI at the same time that we do Game Boy, and then once we get that going nicely, we'll add the C64. And if it's something that sounds really cool, then we'll add bass line here. So drums, melody, harmony, bass. Alright, I'm gonna get busy, and we'll come back if I make any cool noises. Alright, so we've got Logic running, and this track here is sending out on MIDI channel 8, which I'm sort of man in the middle, changing to MIDI channel 1 before it gets to the Game Boy, and that is assigned to pulse, to wave. So MIDI channel 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3. So it's going out on 8, but the Arduino is changing it into 3 for the Game Boy. So we're just sort of looping an arpeggio into the Game Boy, and it's coming back in here, and that has just an echo on it. So there's the raw audio from the Game Boy. Turn the echo back on. Alright. So what else I've got here is some samples on the computer that I've made from various things. Okay, so that's the most boring out of everything. Here is the Wrkp, which is the drum machine that Colin pulled out of the dumpster at work, and we repaired and got working again. So I can turn that on here. I really like the Wrkp for its little bongo Congo drums. I think that's going to be kind of signature in my sound because you don't hear too much of that. And here's the C64. Now I ran out of MIDI cables to hook up the Game Boy and had to use a weird sort of almost MIDI cable to hook into the audio output of the C64, and evidently one of its channels is not coming through. There's a weird port on the back of the C64 that you got to tap into to get the audio, and it wasn't quite working right, so I need to make up a cable. I've already got that stuff out, so I'll work on that here in a moment. I got wire and all that, but so there's C64 being played live, and we can add in the Game Boy. Drum machine. I'll bring in the sampler just for those fat drums. Everything's going out on its own channel and coming back in through the tube amp, and then we're hearing it out the speakers. Alright, so next update on this will have to be once I get this repaired, because I'm kind of running out of time this afternoon. So I get this back up to both SIDs functional, and then I'll work on some tracks that use this for the bass line and or drum, bass drum. And yeah, so I guess that's it for right now, and I'll probably be back tomorrow or something with some more updates. Let's see the MIDI coming in here. That was a lot of work. Alright, I'll be back with something when I've got real stuff to show.
We post videos all the time, so don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Twitter at TYMKRS.